The horrific legend of Dracula, the bloodthirsty vampire lurking in the dark, rings a bell. But what if I told you it was inspired by the legend of a real man? A man so dreadful to this very day that just mentioning his name sends chills running down your spine, centuries after he has passed. In this presentation, we take a close look at peeling back the layers of myth and reveal the truth about one man, Vlad the Impaler, who literally gave birth to the character of Dracula. Now imagine a dark and quiet night, and amidst nowhere, only the ghastly echoes of howling wolves are heard. Deep inside the forests of Eastern Europe come the Carpathian Mountains, said to be the home of a monster, a ruler so cruel that no man's mind could imagine. That man was Vlad III, more famously known as Vlad the Impaler. He was the prince in the region of Wallachia during the 15th century. His name, Dracula, came from son of the dragon. It was a title passed down from his father, who was among the members in the Order of the Dragon, an organization of knightly order pledged to defend Christianity against the Ottoman Turks. But his notoriety does not come from that title alone, but from those cold-blooded acts he committed to place him in blood-stained history. For a moment, imagine living under Vlad's rule. Imagine walking through the streets, looking up to see impaled bodies, their faces twisted in agony, displayed like grotesque trophies for all to see. Vlad's favorite form of execution, impalement. He would drive a stake of wood, sharp and long, through the victim's body, sometimes letting them just hang on for several days to die painfully and slowly. This was not punishment. It was a public view, an example, a warning to everybody who crossed his path. Visualize a landscape speckled with the bodies of thousands impaled in line into the farthest distance of your eyes. None even of the boldest men will not shiver at the sight of it. All that, however, is just one fragment of Vlad's gruesome legacy. Tales of his cruelty have turned into legend. Here is an example. When Vlad finally defeated a Turkish army, he invited all the remaining soldiers for a grand banquet. Something rather different from a feast awaited the survivors, though. The banquet was to be taken from the very stakes upon which their comrades had been impaled. Mercy. It didn't exist in the world of Vlad. Justice and insanity were now both the same thing for him. But the surprising truth is that much of what we know about Vlad today is distortion, a melding of fact, myth, and political propaganda. Vlad was not only a sadistic monster who was in his element when people died, but he was also a ruler of desperate times. The country he ruled, Wallachia, was perennially in danger from the Ottoman Empire down south to the rival factions up north. This is the unforgiving world in which survival meant life and in which the strong survive. He had measures that were drastic, not to be cruel, but self-preserving through keeping his people safe in a world where enemies lurk at every nook. In fact, the Ottomans themselves were known to be brutal. Rival warlords did not flinch at mass murder of whole villages. Most of his brutal methods were, in their own way, a form of political defense, protection of his kingdom and his iron fist on the throne in such a violent, merciless world. But then, of course, there is the myth. It was his enemies, more especially the Ottoman Turks, who, after his death, spread the tale of his monstrosity. We're talking about a bloodthirsty fiend. With time, that would constitute the very root of the Dracula legend. What we know today is largely the result of such exaggerated accounts meant to turn Vlad into the stuff of nightmares. Of course, there is the well-known 1897 novel by Bram Stoker's Dracula. This fictional character of the vampire, screwing women and drinking the blood of the living, has little to do with the man who ruled Wallachia. Stoker's Dracula is a supernatural monster and not at all the complicated, troubled ruler that was Vlad the Impaler. Little of this blood-sucking vampire resembles anything about the historical figure. Yet, the legend grew, nurtured by the atrocities committed and the aura of myth shrouding his person. What does Vlad's true story leave us with? It is so easy to brand him a maniac, the bad guy of the highest degree. That would make everything far too convenient. Diggers into the subject will find a man forged from the brutal reality of his time. His actions were despicable, yet on so many levels, they were born out of desperation in a maneuver to defend his people in a world where violence was the language of survival. In many ways, Vlad's story is a reflection of the darkest truths of human nature. It shows us that, under extreme circumstances, even the most honorable of men can be pushed to commit acts beyond imagination. But here's the twist. This isn't just about Vlad. This is a reminder that history is rarely as black and white as we'd like it to be. Hero and villain are separated by a thin line, and desperation in choice at times defines your legacy in ways you could never even imagine. Vlad's story also serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of fear, of how quickly a single narrative can override the truth. We must be careful about who tells history, how they tell it, and why they tell it. The power of myth is immense, but the truth is often far more complicated than we want to admit. So now I ask you, what do you think about Vlad the Impaler? Is he a villain, or a man shaped by the violent world he lived in, too harshly judged by history? Or do you think the myths and legends are well-deserved? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the real story behind Dracula, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with anyone who loves a good historical mystery. Thanks for watching, and always remember, the past is never as simple as it seems. There's always something lurking beneath the surface.